Hello, UK Crime Book Club. We are now live for our first Spookfest panel of the day, and I'm going to let everybody else introduce themselves and show off some book covers. I hope you've got plenty of books with you. We want to see them all. So, Barry, do you want to go first?
Yeah, fine. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Barry Faulkner. I write crime books, the DCS Palmer series, which is up to number 13. Number 14's on the stands at the moment, but number 13's out. I write the Ben Nevis and the Gold Digger books. Number 3's just come out on that, which is a private eye who gets tied up with MI5 and goes all over the world. He's in Madeira. If you ever went on the sledges in Madeira going down, anybody done that on holiday? He's up there and he's in amongst them. And
I wasn't brave enough.
he's on it, and they're chased down them. And then there's the factual series. The latest one is the serial killers. There's a British crime and all the rest of it. And for those of you who like the Palmer or don't know about Palmer, that one's on free this weekend. Free Palmer number 5. So you can get
drop a link in. We'll drop a link in so everybody can go and go and
Oh,
have
thank
a
you.
look.
Thank you. That's me.
Ashley.
Hi everybody, happy Halloween. I'm Ashley. I am the author of Lucy's Coming For You, which is here. It's a spooky psychological thriller, so perfect for Halloween. That is my debut, so that's the only one I've got to show at the moment. But book 2 is coming out next month, so I'll share a little bit more about that later on as well.
Lorraine.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. I'm the author of the D.I. Sterling series, and I have books to show. The first one, Retriever of Souls. There are only 5. I'm nowhere near as prolific as Barry. First one, Retriever of Souls. Second, Children in Chains. Third, Injections of Insanity, Rage and Retribution. And the latest one is Love Me Tender. Next year, I'm leaving the D.I. Sterling series for a while because I have a standalone psychological thriller coming out, but with the same publisher.
I'd like to ask you all about that. Let's ask you all about series versus standalones. It's a good place to start. So how many books are in each series so far? Have you done standalones? And obviously for you, Ashley, as well, what you're planning to do. Are you planning to do another standalone? Have you got a series in mind? To you first, Barry.
No, I've not done a standalone. As I said, the Palmer series is 13 of them are out, and there's another one I'm working on. And the Nevis series, there's 3 out. Nevis did start, I thought it was going to be a standalone, but I got so into the character and it's so different from the Palmer character that I enjoyed it so much that I wrote another one and then another one. When you're a full-time writer and you're an indie writer, you've got to look at your income. And series will give you an income because if someone likes a book, they'll go back and they'll hopefully buy the series or download the whole series. So you've got to be looking at that. I haven't got any standalones planned because I just enjoy writing the series, to be honest.
Fair enough, Ashley.
Yeah, so Lucy's Coming For You was actually supposed to be a standalone. I wasn't going to do a series, funnily enough. However, I had a lot of feedback that people wanted to get to know Detective Swanson a little bit more. So book 2 is kind of more based around that side of things with a new sort of side main character as well, I suppose you'd say. So although it's a series and you still hear from the main character of Lucy's Coming For You, it explores the other characters in more detail, really. But yeah, I'm not against writing a standalone. I think it's like Barry says, you just sort of get so involved with the characters, you don't really want to leave them. It's quite hard, I think. So as it stands, I'm going to write a 3rd book in this series, and then I'm going to see after that. I might try and do a standalone. We'll see how it goes.
Lorraine.
Well, mine also started as a standalone. I never intended to make it into a series. It was always just going to be a one-off crime novel. And a bit like Barry, I got totally involved in the characters, and the feedback that I got from readers was, that they wanted more and more and more. But I reached a point where I just felt I want to take a break from that. And I discussed it with my editor, and she said, okay, let's see what we can do. And I actually got a 2-book deal for 2 standalones. And I have to say, writing them is so completely different to writing the series. Where in the series, as I'm sure the other writers here know, with the series, the characters' relationships continue. It goes on from book to book, and they develop, and they get to know new people, and you see more and more of their character. What I found with the standalone was that because it was definitely, because of what it's about, it's definitely not going to be another book with any of those characters. I had to tie it all up in a completely different way to the way you would in a series. So I found it different anyway.
And I'm just
I was just going to say, I tried to do a standalone a year or two ago called Succession, which was a gangster one, a London gangster one. And if anybody that reads Succession will see that it's the first 3 chapters are all about the mob family in London, and something happens, and guess who comes in? DCS Palmer. I couldn't get him out of my head. He kept wanting to get in, so it ended up as a DC Palmer book and part of the series. Yeah, it's as the other 2 are saying. The characters get in your head; they take you over after a while. You can't get away from them. Yes.
Sorry, go on. I was just go on. What I was going to say was, I deliberately set my standalone in a completely different town, so that there was no chance whatsoever that Paolo was going to come waltzing in and solve anything. Yeah. This was, it had to be a psychological thriller where there wasn't anybody other than the reader trying to solve what was going on. So.
You must have some willpower.
Sorry?
You must have some willpower to keep them away out of your head, and they didn't come.
No, he's still there, and I've already halfway through book 6 in the series, but I was able to actually keep him out of the standalone. But I've got another one to write, so and that one again is going to be set in a completely different place. He's got to stay away.
So let's ask you all about your paths to publication. I know you've all had different careers, and 2 of you are definitely full-time writers. Ashley, I'm not sure if you're there yet or if you're even intending to be.
Not full-time. Hopefully soon.
So let's start with you, Barry. Talk to us about your life leading up to beginning writing, or have you always written?
Yeah, I've always written, really. Well, what actually got me into it, was when I was at school. I'm 74 now, so it was a fair time ago. My English teacher sent a essay that I'd written, a short story, up to the old London County Council in a competition for short stories, and I won it. I couldn't believe it, and that was it. I was the man. I was strutting around. I was the big boy and all that sort of thing. And I'd always liked writing. And when I left school, I went into advertising as a copywriter. When I was there, I sent a few scripts and things to the BBC and other companies, and I ended up as a script editor and writer at the BBC and several other independent companies which were around in those days. And a lot of that was time spent in hotels, because a lot of these, like if you're working for Granada, then you're up in Manchester. If you're working for Central, you're somewhere else, and all over the place. And so the hotels of the evening, there's nothing to do. And I wrote the Palmer, a couple of the Palmer. which were going to be pitched as television series. And I got busy and life went on. I just forgot about them until sort of retirement came along, and I thought, oh, well, what about those? So give me something to do, keep me away from the kids and the dogs and out from under the wife's feet. I transferred the first 2 into books, enjoyed it so much, and I'm now on number 14, and I've got nice readers, and the public seem to like them, and I'm very happy. And that is now it forms a very good income, believe it or not. If anybody's watching us thinking about shall I or shan't I, yes, do. Don't be put off. If you write it, you can always employ editors and other people to help you through. But yeah, do it, because I love it. I absolutely love writing.
Well, you hide that very well, for your love for your writing. Ashley, shall we come to you next? So, how did you?
Yeah, sure. So
how did you get started?
So I have always written. I've always written stories since I was a little kid. I used to have a little typewriter when I was a kid. I used to sort of bang stories out there every weekend. But then I think as I grew older, I kind of work and university and stuff kind of got in the way. I studied psychology for 5 years at university, and I worked as a mental health advocate for a while as well. And at some point in lockdown, I kind of came back to writing. And that's where this story came from, which is about a mental health advocate. I kind of wanted to explore mental health through my stories and share that with people. So I'm an indie writer as well, like Barry. I just absolutely love it and have the same advice to definitely go for it. Obviously, I'm quite new, and I only have the one book out so far. I have a lot more planned because I just can't see me ever stopping now. I just love it so much. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how it all came about, really.
Lorraine.
Okay, my story is slightly different in that I started off as a short story writer for women's magazines and other magazines. And then I took a Writers Bureau course because I wanted to learn how to do it properly. And I ended up becoming a tutor for Writers Bureau. And it just sort of went from there. I actually was a columnist for Living France magazine and for Spain magazine, Writing magazine. I was the head fiction judge for Writers Forum. So everything in my life is to do with writing. And it's almost like writing the novels is almost like a hobby. It's a part-time thing, even though it really is, I think of myself as a novelist first and foremost. Everything else I've been doing is centered around writing. And I've now given up my columns in Writing magazine and given up the judging. I need now to spend more time on my own writing because, like Barry, it's something that I want to do, and it's become a full-time job, which I never expected it to be. I always thought the column work would be my main focus, and these would just be a part-time thing, but they're sort of taking over.
It's not like a job, though, is it?
Yes and no. I hate writing the actual act of typing the books. But once I've got a first draft, I love editing. I absolutely adore. Give me a first draft and I am on top of the world. I'll just sit down with it printed and a red pen, and I'll spend however long it takes, and I'll rewrite it and rewriting. Love it. First drafts. Oh, I hate it. It's a bane of my existence.
I find that first draft, I love it. Sit down, you've got the idea in your mind, and I'm one of those writers. I don't plot everything out. I have the idea. I sit to a laptop and bang, away I go and see where it leads me. So when it's very difficult to know when to finish when you do that. And when you're gonna capture the serial killer, when he's going to go, and what's going to happen, and then I finish with it. I then go back myself through it and add and subtract and all that, and then it goes off to the editors and all that after. So basically, I've done a first draft, looked at it, and then it goes off. But I don't want to know anything after that. I just want it back so I can put it out.
Really? Oh no, I love the whole rewriting process.
No.
I will rewrite mine 3 or 4 times before it goes off to the editor.
No.
But that first draft, oh God, it's like pulling teeth. What about you, Ashley? Do you like?
Ashley, how about you? How do you feel about the process?
For me, it depends on the book, to be honest. Sometimes I love the first draft if it's kind of flowing. I'm not a plotter, so what happens in the books. I find out as I go. So it depends how that goes. If I get stuck on it, then I'll start hating it, and I'll get more excited when I've finished it. I'll get more excited to edit. So yeah, it depends on the book for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not the book I don't like. It's the actual tedium of typing the words. It's all in my head, and I'm really excited about it. But it's like, oh, I've got to type it. If somebody else could just get inside my head and say, "Don't worry, I'll do that for you." Brilliant. It's I suppose just the boring part of typing the words.
We've got quite a few people that have said hello, and we've not said hello yet.
Oh,
so happy Halloween, everybody! Hi Leslie and Alex and Laura and Kaz, Andrew, Aggie. Kaz, we decided we're not doing Halloween costumes. We had a chat as a panel, didn't we? And nobody else wanted to do it, and that suited me just fine. I look forward to your effort when I see you later, Kaz. I look forward to seeing what she's done. I did decorate a little bit last year, but I'll be honest, this morning I completely forgot. So I'd have only had to take it down anyway and give it back to the kids. So not really my thing. But we are here for Halloween, and it is Spookfest. So do any of you have favourite horror books or paranormal or favourite authors of that genre?
Oh,
Anybody got a good recommendation for us?
I don't know whether
You're all on the spot now.
Yeah, Stephen King, does he come under that genre? He does now and again, doesn't he, in some of his stuff? I think, mind you, the favourite
The Shining behind me.
Yeah. I liked.
Scares me still years later.
It's the sort of thing that, it's more video and film, isn't it, than written word with that sort of stuff. I think with the effects and everything, which is great. I watched a few things on telly. I mean, Stephen King. The book, my favourite book is the Mercedes, Mr. Mercedes. I thought that was really good. That sort of was on the periphery of spooky, I suppose. Yeah, but it's not a favourite genre of mine, I must admit.
Can I share an experience that it's not a favourite book or anything like that, but the spookiest thing that ever happened to me reading a book?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I can't remember which author it was now because I'm going back about 30 years. But I opened this book and it was sort of a borderline horror story, and it opened with the sentence of whatever this horrible thing was. It started on the 12th of January 1955, and I just dropped the bloody book because that was my birthday, and it was like it was so I don't know, it was almost like the author was saying, "Hey, you, I've got you," because it was so exact, the year, the day, everything. Anyway, that's my spooky story.
Spooky.
Yeah.
It's spooky.
Ashley, any favourite?
I went to see the Halloween film the other night. I don't mind those, actually, kind of corny slasher films. I don't mind a bit of that around Halloween, but I don't really watch ghost films. I'm a bit of a wimp.
I don't watch horror films, and I haven't done since I saw The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And we're going back a long, long time for that. But that actually gave me nightmares for weeks.
Yeah, that film terrified. I watched that when I was 8, and my big brother was babysitting me. So
Oh God! I watched it as an adult, and it terrified me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched
So I think
things
probably
as
since
a
then,
child that put me off. My parents don't know that, and my mum watches these, so she might be about to find out that I watched some awful horror films as a kid, and now I can't stand anything that slightly makes me jump. I don't like it.
No, I can't. I just.
And I've got a weird thing with Stellas as well, but I think that's pretty normal.
Sorry?
Go on, Lorraine. I was saying I've got a weird thing with Stellas as well, but that's probably quite normal to be
I think that,
terrified of Stellas.
yeah.
I think
But what were you going to say, Lorraine?
No, I was just going to agree with you that I can't watch creep. And funnily enough, even though I write, I mean, my books are definitely on the hard-boiled spectrum. I can't watch violence. If there's something on television, I just can't watch it.
Now that's very interesting. Because we all write crime, but I think we all have the limits of what we like in crime. And if I'm looking at a book or whatever, I won't. If it's child or animal, no thanks. Boom, closed, gone, finished. Won't touch it. Don't want to know.
Yeah.
You know, and yet there are some writers that do fabulously well with that sort of stuff. You know, but it's just, well, thank God we're not all the same.
Absolutely. Another sort of, I have this thing about eyes. You know, I can't put eye drops in. You know, I'm really squeamish about that. And I think it was a Kathy Reich's book. I can't remember. Again, going back years, where her I can't remember if he killed people or if he just tortured them. But whoever the guy used to sew up his victims' eyelids.
That made me shiver.
And I was like, oh no, and that's it. I couldn't. It's not very often that I cannot finish a book, but I couldn't finish that one. I read that, and it just made me go cold. The thought of it, and of course, it was so well written that it felt as if I was there in the room while he was doing it. Ooh.
There was a book that I read of Malcolm Hollindrake's, and I had the opposite. He did something with that pin, and and generally that would have been enough to make me stop reading, but I couldn't put it down. Even with, I'm not going to tell you anything, but even with that, it was so good, I couldn't stop reading it. But I did message him afterwards and say, "Oh my word, what were you thinking?" It's quite extreme. Has wants to know, how hard is it to get in the mind of a killer?
Oh,
it's a really good question. I don't think I've ever asked anybody this before.
Easy. I love all of my books have got I do a split point of view. So you've got the detective, and then you've got the killer or whatever he's going to be doing, or she. And you know what I was saying just now about the actual typing? It's tedious, and I can't. Not when I'm writing those bits. Oh, fingers just fly over those bits. Love getting inside the head of the killer.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I do different points of view as well, and always a point of view from the bad guy, so to speak. And it just flies through. I don't know why I find it so easy. It's a bit worrying, really.
It can help because I don't always do that, but the ones I've done I've enjoyed. One, for instance, was where the killer took on Palmer on social media. So they, he actually set up a Facebook page for Palmer and was writing things to him and all that, and it gave the pretext to the whole book that was about social media and the killer on social media. So I like that. And one I'm doing at the moment is about the guy who slashes people's throats in a cinema, and it's from his side and from the detective side as well, and that's good because you're getting in both their heads, and you're seeing how a detective tries to get in the head of the serial killer, Yeah, it's good doing it that way. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of fun.
It is. And I just look on it as long as I'm writing, my partner is safe. If I stop writing, well, you know,
who knows?
watch out for headlines from Spain.
Mind you, the amazing thing is with serial killers, talking about headlines, yes, serial killers like Bamba and that make the headlines, but there's an awful lot of serial killers in the UK that really don't. I mean, you take John Bodkin Adams, he's killed 163 people. Who's heard of him? Hardly anybody. 163 people. And the court documents were sealed until 2033. He was a doctor, you know, a bit like the Simpsons or whatever his name was. But I mean, when I was doing research on the serial killer book, there's so many of them, and it's amazing that you just think, God, I never knew that. And he was doing that when I was a boy, or he was doing that 5 years ago. Wow. And yes, it's amazing that the papers don't pick up some of these people. I think there's 100 and something serial killers in prison in Great Britain at the moment. Amazing, absolutely amazing. But this guy, I mean, 163.
Okay, so what is it, do you think, that makes somebody, it's a horrible way to look at it, but what is it that you think that makes a serial killer newsworthy? Because if there are so many that are in prison that we never hear about, what is it that makes certain serial killers attractive to the media?
Oh, God, that's a question, isn't it? Well, I suppose you've got the celebrity status. You know, if someone knocks off a celebrity, it's going to make it. I really can't answer that question. I don't know. As I say, having done the research for the book, it was just amazed me, the number of people that are there. And some of the stories are absolutely amazing. I mean, you know, some of them are fairly obvious, like you've got the van driver and the police just had to follow his route. And sort of every 20 miles on his route, there was an unsolved murder, you know, things like that. And of course, the serial murder squad, the real serial murder squad, came in and sort of sussed it out straight away. Things like that. I mean, I think he did 48 people. And then you've got Brady and the Moors and that who, you know, I mean, there's a lot of bravado and a lot of whatever in that. But once he got done and he's in prison, he's then telling other prisoners and prison warders, you haven't got me for half of them, mate. You know, I've killed 26 and all that. You know, it's so, who knows?
I am convinced that they actually killed more than they found. And you know that poor woman who died without knowing where her son was buried?
Yeah.
I've always been convinced that they didn't lead the police to that grave because he wasn't the only body in there. Right. You know, I'm sure that's why, because there was no other reason not to actually say that's where that body is, that boy's body.
Mm.
It gave him a lot of power, though, didn't it? But we've got a question from Alex, who said, as somebody that's currently trying to write my own book, I'm curious to if a serial killer is someone that leads to a standalone because it's harder to let the serial killer move into another book. That's a good point. Do you think that a serial killer could be spread successfully across multiple books? Ashley, what do you think?
Sorry.
That's okay. I was just thinking about Halloween then when he said that, and the fact that he's spread over so many movies. So yeah, I suppose you could do, especially detective-wise, if you're doing it from the detective point of view. I suppose you can just continue on from that, can't you, and introduce a new baddie if you like. But I think serial killer-wise, you could also spread it over in a number of different ways as to whether or not they get caught, or maybe the wrong guy gets caught.
If the wrong person was caught, and then the same killer turns up. Yeah. Maybe not in the next book, but the book after that.
Yeah. There's a bit of a twist.
Harry, what do you think?
See all our writing minds going.
So the serial killer would become the main person in the book rather than the detective, wouldn't he? who's avoiding being captured and gets away with it somehow in the end. Like Ashley said, it could be someone else who's arrested. The serial killer gets away with it and goes on to the next book to start serial killing again. It's a good premise. Yeah, I'm not sure I like to meet any of the readers of those sort of books, but yeah, yeah. Thank you, Alec. I'll have a think about that. Yeah.
We've got a really good question.
Or something like a Dexter vibe.
We've got a really good question from Laura Hamilton. Could he use the killer captured in book 1 to help you catch the next serial killer? I feel like this book's being written for us in the comments.
No. We're going to be writing this afternoon.
That could be a relative, couldn't it?
I do like.
Yeah, it could be a relative.
Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, of course. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. It could be somebody who
I love those guys.
Provides insight. Ashley, you would know more about that. Would somebody be prepared to help the police to find a serial killer? If they themselves have been found
possibly
guilty of being a killer themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of different reasons why they might do, depending on whether it's that they want kind of the notoriety of finding the killer, or they want to look like a good guy, or whatever it might be, from thinking about people that I worked with in the past.
Would it have a twisted motive?
Parole. It might help their parole, mightn't it? Then they come up to the parole board if they've helped on other cases.
I think for most serial killers, the only reason that they would do it is to help themselves in some way.
That's what I meant. There would be an ulterior motive, wouldn't there? Even if it wasn't obvious to others, there would definitely be an ulterior motive. There would be with mine, anyway.
I think you're right.
I've just had a look. Comment was from that says, Barry, I've put your arc down to watch you on here, and that's it's Donna Morfitt. So she's reading Donna. It, and then she's come to watch you, and then she'll go and carry on.
Thank you, Donna.
So everybody, tell us about your process when it comes to. Do you all use arc readers? Do you have somebody that you wait until it's completely ready before it goes off, or do you have people that look all the way through as you're writing? What's your process? Ashley, what did you do with your book?
So book 1, I got beta readers first of all. I just asked around, because I hadn't had anything published then and was just kind of starting out. So initially it was other writers that beta read the first story for me. And then I edited it based on their feedback and got more beta readers, and then edited it again and got more beta readers. I just wanted to make sure my first book was kind of as good as I could make it. And then after that, after it had been edited, by a professional editor, I then got arcs at that point. And then it ended up on NetGalley as well to get more arcs and more reviews, and to try and get people just to know it was there, really, with it being my first one. And then this one, it's pretty much been the same process, but just kind of one set of beta readers, because I know a few people now who want to read it first, and so it's a bit easier this time around. Now I've got a few people who know who I am, and then I am looking for arc readers from kind of next week onwards, so I'll have arc readers again then, and we'll see how it goes.
And how are you going about finding them, the arc readers?
By posts on social media normally. So I'll just put a post on just saying that I'm looking for arc readers or beta readers, and I'll just see who wants to sign up. But then I also have my own Facebook group now with beta and arc readers in it, so people can just join if they're interested in reading it, in reading the first drafts, really, and helping out. So partly with the Facebook group, which I'm still trying to build, and then NetGalley.
And what's the name of the Facebook group?
I can't remember. It's Ashley Beegan's arc and beta readers, I think. Yeah, that's what it is.
We'll pop links in for any of you who are looking for arc readers. Lorraine, how about you? What's your process?
I finished the book the first draft, then I do an edit. And at that point, I've got 3 or 4 trusted readers who will read it for me and give critical feedback, and then I will edit again from that point. And then I've got other readers who will then, a bit like Ashley really, the book goes out to different people at different times after various edits. And then when I'm happy with it, then it goes to the publisher. And as you know, loads of back and forth edits from that point onwards. And then Headline put my books up on NetGalley. And so, that's where I will get most of the early reviews.
And Barry?
Oh, well, yeah. All right. Here's an admission. About 6 or 7 months ago, I thought I'm going to change over and get a few more art readers. So I put a thing on the UK Crime What's It website, looking for art readers, and I got zilch. I did not get one who cuts. I thought, well, who's buying my books? Where am I selling all these books if none of these people want an art? So I have about 8 or 9 art readers who are bloggers that I've known a long time, and they come back and say, "Uh-oh, not this, not that, not the other," and then I go on what they say basically. But yeah, art readers is always it's a hurdle for me. I can't. Normal readers, not bloggers, just normal readers. I can't get them. I obviously I have an editor and a proofreader and all the rest of it professionally, but readers just have never replied. I've got a Facebook page, obviously Barry Faulkner. I've got a website, Barry Faulkner, but no art readers. I have a problem getting art readers. I'd like more. Obviously, I would. I get a fair amount of reviews, so I'm quite happy with reviews, and I'm one of those writers, and I have arguments with other writers about reviews. Sales count for me. That's what puts the food on the table. Reviews don't. And because you've got, 50, 60 reviews, and I've got that many on books, it doesn't necessarily mean the book's going to sell an awful lot more. Or does it? I'm open. Yeah, maybe it does. But I'm fine. But yeah, I would like some more ARCs. But how do I get them? I don't know.
Well, I think you've just put a call out there, so let's see if you get any response from that. Lorraine, you didn't give us your Facebook page details then when we were grabbing them from Barry and Ashley.
Yeah. I've got a oh God, what's it called?
Sorry, putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I can't even think what it's called. Lorraine Mace. Do you know? I don't know. I have got a page.
You can drop a link in with my permission, all of you, for your
actually, I want
page and share it.
Yeah, I will do that at the end. I'll drop the link in. Yes, please come and join my page, please. Please.
I think the thing about arts and all that is that if you've got a website like I have, you've got a reader subscribe. It doesn't cost them anything. Who get all the new stuff, idea of what's coming and when and all the rest of it. And that grows very well, sort of every month. It puts on 20 or 30 readers. So I'm getting the readers who are interested enough to subscribe to my readers list for information on what, if I'm doing any lit fests and all the rest of it. But they don't want an ARC.
Sorry, I forgot. I have got a website, and I do send out a newsletter. So if people go to the website, they can subscribe to the newsletter. And that is really easy. LorraineMace.com.
Yeah, newsletters are really good, I find. Really good, yeah.
So what have you all found has been the thing that has helped you to sell books more than anything else? What's the one thing that you really put your energy into because you know that it works for you? So Barry's saying that art readers aren't really there, but obviously you say readers are coming from somewhere. So what do you find you put the most effort into?
Well, I think once you get a series going, that's a great thing to get readers, because if you get one reading one of the books and they like it, they'll go back for the series. So that's it. I do as many lit fests as I can do, literary festivals, but being an indie, of course, you don't get invited to many, although I've done Bristol Crime Fest and a few other big ones I've been invited to. Holth, the Hartsbury one. It's getting out and about. I do an awful lot of women's institutes. I do a illustrated talk on UK major heists, 1930 to the present day, and the geezers what done them, which is all Brinks Mat, Great Train Robbery, all that sort of thing, which all these lovely women at WI, I think they'd all like to be a gangster's mole if they could be, what they tell me afterwards. Yeah, so you have to get out, and I like doing signings at independent bookshops as well. I'm always open to that. And anything else to get out there with the readers, basically, is what it's about for me.
Lorraine?
I do a lot of, because I live in Spain, obviously it's difficult to come over to the UK. Well, has been difficult to come over to the UK. I do, as I say, I do a lot of online talks with book clubs. And I do local events, but, again, the market here is very small. I think most of my books are sold because somebody will say, "Oh, I really enjoyed that. Have you read, so and so?" It's hard. It's hard here because I can't get to talk to people. But then against that, I have lovely weather and a nice life, so I can't complain.
We have different definitions of lovely weather, don't we, Lorraine? You
Yeah.
absolutely love the sun, and I'm quite happy here in the cold in Manchester in the rain and the gloom.
Oh God, I would just shrivel up and die.
I'm like that in the sun. Ashley, what have you found worked for you so far?
Yeah, probably similar, to be honest. It's all about engagement and just chatting to people and talking to people about the book and, doing things like this and getting to chat to people this way as well, which maybe doesn't come, I'm quite introverted, so it doesn't really come that naturally to me. So I have to kind of like push myself to get out there and to talk to people, even if I am a bit shy sometimes. So yeah, it's just all about engagement really, and talking to fans, which has been really nice as well. It's probably been the nicest part of actually finally publishing and putting something out there, and it was probably the scariest part at first as well, in case everybody hated it. So that's been like quite nice. So yeah, probably that.
Want to ask you all about research. So Kaz likes to ask if you've ever gone down a research rabbit hole, something that you've really not been able to use, but you are so fascinated reading it that you look up and 6 hours have gone and you think, well, I was only given 2 hours to write and I've missed tea time and not cleaned up, not done anything else. So what has been the biggest one? Lorraine, you nodded, so I'm going to go to you first.
Oh no, there's so many. I am terrible. I will look up something and I'll see, you can sort of get a whole load of links down. And I think, oh, and I'll click on that. And the next thing I know, as you say, hours have gone by. I still don't know what it was that I was looking for, but I have sort of discovered how to get drugs that I really don't need and shouldn't have. I've discovered, oh God, all sorts. People put up horrible things on the internet, really horrible things, and they are brilliant to read, but have absolutely nothing to do with what I was looking for in the first place. So there's no one particular thing. I just end up down rabbit holes quite often.
Barry?
Yeah, I'm the same, to be fair.
Sorry, there was one, the third book, Injections of Insanity. The killer uses insulin to commit the murders. And I wanted to know how easy it was to actually buy insulin without prescription and whatever. And that one, I ended up down a rabbit hole because I went on to see how easy it was to buy insulin. Oh, and I ended up on places where I could buy lots of things that had nothing to do with insulin, but they would still kill.
Did you make a note of a lot of things?
Maybe. Yeah. So anything that is sort of really interesting, I do make a note. But then I forget to go back to the notes. I've got notes all over the place that I never even look at.
It's tabs for me. I've got loads of open tabs that I'm going to come back to one day. I never do.
So how about you with research, Ashley?
So, yeah, I laughed when you asked that question, to be fair, because I went down a rabbit hole just this morning when I actually, I'm not sure what I was looking at. I was looking at mental health hospitals and I wanted to double check something that I couldn't remember. And then I ended up down a rabbit hole of this patient that has his own like cage thing in the bottom of a mental health hospital. This is like a real story. He's like in it now. I can't remember his name. I think it was I would say Richard Mounsey or Mounsey.
Is it the glass box?
Do you know, is it really bad? Yeah, and I hadn't heard of it before, and I was like, "Wow, this is fascinating." And I just read loads about him and didn't find what I was.
Why is he?
I kind of still got a tab up.
Why is he in a glass box?
This is what I was trying to find out, but then I think
thing for everybody around him.
Robert Maudsley, it was. So he killed somebody and he went to prison and committed 3 more murders in prison, I think. And that's why in the end. And I was just fascinated by this whole story, even though I was meant to be reading, trying to find out this really small detail that I needed for my book. So yeah, it happens to me all the time. I'm easily distracted, if I'm honest.
It's a very controversial case, so I'll stop the conversation there before I get started on it. And I'll just tell you to go and look, Lorraine.
Okay,
but Barry, making some notes there. Are you making notes or are you frozen?
Yeah, no, I'm making notes. I was seeing whether I got Robert Mosley in the serial killers book. I got 45. Yeah, I mean, when you're writing a crime book and you've got serial killer. The research does take you down those holes. As I said, each of my books is set in a different place, different genre, different workplace. And the one that really got me down a rabbit hole was I had a nurse who was in a surgery and she became a serial killer. I won't go into why, how, whatever. And she was basically removing a leg from each and then an arm and then a head from all different people to make a body. Because she got something against the GMC and blah, blah, blah. But looking into that, surgery and amputations, believe it or not, is amazing. And because I had to have all the right names for the different ligaments and all that sort of thing. And it's absolutely amazing looking at that. Some of the other stuff in the other books, when we're talking drugs and where you get them and what you do, I won't go into it, but I've been on the dark web and found a lot on there, which is very, very good. And the writer that always gets me when I start the first page and don't stop until the last one is Robert Craze. He knows so much about so much, and that's really good stuff. If you can get a Robert Craze book, Crais, that's the one I'd go for. But rabbit holes are part of our working life, I'm afraid, as a writer, and anybody that's looking to find something, yeah, we're just dropping them all the time. And then, as Elaine said, 3 hours later, you think, hang on, what am I still doing looking at this?
The thing with research, though, is that we have to wear it lightly. We find that, we gather so much information, but you can't use it. You've got to know it so that your character can be authentic, but you can't put it in the book. It deepens the character, but you can't put all of that information that you found out. You've got to really draw back and only use the essential parts that the reader has to know. It's one of those. I have this thing, if I'm reading and somebody's put an info dump, of a whole load of information just to show how clever they've been with the research, I stop reading because it annoys me.
But don't you
just
find?
need a hint of it, don't you? Just a taste of
just
it.
just enough. Sorry, Barry, you were going to say something.
No, well, the readers sort of go off on their own tangent as well. I've got a history with the family, and I won't go into it now, but you can look it up on the Facebook page or wherever. And when I every new book, I get an email from a retired detective's son. This detective must be in his 90s. And his son says, Dad says that character so-and-so is Mr. So-and-so or Detective Sergeant so-and-so or this old villain. It is, isn't it? It's not. As far as I know, it's not. It may be because of my background, but it's not something I'm putting out there. But that's where I love with the readers who've got their own idea of your characters. We all have a mental image of our characters, probably what they look like, how they speak, all the rest of it. And it amazes me when you do a lit fest or WI or something, and they come up and you say, well, what do you think that character's like? And they tell you, and it's entirely opposite to what is in your mind. You know, I've got my detective, you know, his wife's trying to get him on to be vegetarian because he's putting on a porch and all that, and he's getting on. And I did a WI at Hereford, and a lady came up, she said, oh, I do like that detective. I said, what do you like about him? She says, because I've got this lanky, long man in my mind. I said, he's nothing like that.
Don't tell her that, shame.
She's not reading what I'm saying, really. They get their own ideas, and they stick to. So that's marvellous, yeah. But research, oh yeah, I love it. Mastermind next week.
Mastermind. We're really coming close to the end of the hour already. So I'm going to ask you all to just tell us about your latest book. Give everybody at home a clue about the story and where they can buy it. So who wants to volunteer to go first? Right, Lorraine, go on then. You move first.
Okay. This Love Me Tender is the 5th book in the series. How can I tell you about it without giving too much away?
See, this is the trick.
Okay. The villain, for want of a better word, who obviously has his own point of view, is only known as Boy in his parts. And pretty much he's looking for someone to love. Unfortunately, he is a very, very damaged individual. And the way he goes about looking for that person to love is not good for the person that he finds. Let's just leave it at that. The tagline on it is, if he wants you, there's no escape. And that's pretty much the gist of the story.
Who wants to go next, Barry or Ashley?
Ashley,
go
ladies
with you,
first.
Ashley?
Don't mind, yeah, of course. So I will talk about Lucy's Coming For You because it's the one that I've got to show today. So it is, I've said already, it's a psychological thriller. It's a little bit spooky. So Lucy is a patient from a secure mental health hospital. The other main character is Summer, who is an advocate. And she visits the hospital one day and Lucy essentially disappears. But everybody says that Lucy never existed. So the whole premise is kind of whether she actually does exist or Summer is there a whole like Shutter Island vibe going on, or what's actually happened to Lucy. So that's the premise of the book. Without giving too, it's hard actually with this one to not give too much away with it, but that's the main
It sounds good.
Thank you. I quite like it. And it's on Amazon to buy now.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say where my books are. Obviously, they're available on all online sales, research, all online sales places. And I believe they are also in certain Waterstones in the UK, but I don't know which ones.
But you can go in, if they're in one, you can go in one and request it in the morning.
Yes, yeah.
So take note, people, go and buy it. Barry,
Right.
go on,
yeah,
give us a rundown of the latest Palmer.
The latest Palmer, laptops can kill. The best thing, I'll just read you what the blurb is rather than that. It's the easiest that way, isn't it? Case 13 in the DCS Palmer and the Met Serial Murder Squad files. When petty thieves are murdered by a team of professional hitmen whose modus operandi matched other unsolved killings, Palmer wants to know why. What could bring a professional hit on a bunch of petty thieves? What had they done to upset somebody so much that the hit was even called? There's a big search going on in the underworld for a certain laptop. Why? What's on it and where is it? And is it connected to the case? And who is Sammy, the person being sought so aggressively by the hitmen? And what does Sammy know? Palmer brings in help from the organised crime squad and starts to unravel the tangled threads of the case while suffering the usual attempts of his wife at home to improve his health with a vegetarian diet that he resists and his nemesis neighbour Benji unwittingly causing him pain. The end.
See, I should have done that. I should have read the blurb on the back of the book.
It's the easy way out, you see.
Do you want to? Do you want to read your blurbs? We've got 3 minutes left, so there's enough time for you both.
Mind? Okay.
Not
we
one
start
bit.
again. Number 5 in the series. It starts, a brutal murder. Responding to a tip-off, newly promoted Detective Chief Inspector Paolo Sterling arrives at an apartment block to find the dismembered body of a young woman. And with no indication of a break-in, all signs suggest the killer was known to her. Then the victim's friend is snatched with no witnesses and the unanswered questions mount up. At the same time, Sterling's team are leading the surveillance of a local club thought to be involved in a drug operation. But when one of his colleagues ends up in hospital close to death, Paolo begins to lose his grip. With the odds stacked against him and time running out, can DCI Sterling uncover the truth before it's too late? Or will this case finally tip him over the edge?
Ooh.
Well, it can't push him over the edge. You've got to write another one.
No idea.
Ashley, do you want to finish us off for today with your blurb?
Go on then. Okay, so Summer Thomas questions her own sanity when violent patient Lucy Clark disappears from a locked hospital ward because no one else will admit that Lucy exists. As Summer digs deeper into the disappearance, it becomes apparent that Lucy is looking for her too, but Summer should have stayed away. Now Lucy is coming for her and there's no escaping someone who doesn't exist.
Ooh.
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but they would have read them and they would certainly be on my list after the blurbs if I hadn't. So thank you all so much for joining us to open our Spookfest panel. Please do pop the links in with my permission that you wanted to drop in. And I hope you'll all come back again another time for interviews all by yourselves.
Thank you.
Be nice. Thank you.
Definitely.
Sorry, when you say drop the links in, where do we drop them in?
You can either create a post yourself in the group and just put my name on to say that I gave permission, or you can pop them at the end of this chat. If you go into the group, you'll find this in the announcements, and you could literally just pop your links at the end. Okay, so anyone who's been watching will know where to look.
Lovely.
And thank you to everybody who's watched and asked questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting
happy
me.
Halloween, everybody.
And you.
Thank you. Thank you.